What's going on, everybody? This is Afro Think Tank, and today we're going to talk about Oshay Duke Jackson. All right, and his recent videos on BurkinaFaso and what's the Dr. Eric? I don't know how to pronounce her name. Don't get me butchering up. And the whole Ibrahim Traore thing, calling them scammers and all that stuff. I've been getting a whole bunch of emails. I'm talking, man, they've been lighting me up. And just like Oshay said, when he was forced to make a video, because he said he was getting a bunch of emails about, who was it? One of those YouTube scammers or something. I forgot. It was just recent. He was forced to make a video. And dressed that Humpty Dumpty, Anton Daniels, the scammer, right? And so I'm being forced to address Oshay Duke Jackson. Now, I just want to say off the back, I like Oshay Duke Jackson. Oshay Duke Jackson was one of the first persons to reach out to me when I started taking YouTube seriously, actually. And he's he's a good dude. You know what I'm saying? Like, I know a lot of people don't like him. Most of my subscribers don't like Oshay Duke Jackson. All right, they don't like him, right, at all, right? They think he's a, their opinion of him is, the opinion that a lot of people have of manosphere people and Coonarians, right? Me, I don't believe, even though he said he voted for Trump, I don't get that. Because I know I always say you can't be a Pan-African and MAGA at the same time, right? I don't think Oshay is that politics is not his forte. I would say that, and you're not gonna get me to like normally I'd be going on people, and y'all notice I don't make videos on Oshay because me and Oshay talk, and out of respect, because Black YouTube is small, and there's a certain level of decorum for people you talk to. You don't just be talking to people and then go shit on them online. You know what I'm saying? You just don't do that. So I'm not gonna shit on Oshay, but I will rebuttal, and tell you what I think about what Oshay said, because like I said, I got to keep it real, but it will be respectful. Now, as far as the Burkina Faso thing, about the citizenship and all that, obviously Ibrahim Traore is not a scammer. So I don't agree with the title. I'm pretty sure he did that title because that will get you to click, right? You clicked it when you saw that shit, right? That's a good marketing technique to get people to click on that video to listen to what he got to say. As far as the former U.S. ambassador, I've heard that she may be kind of scamming, or maybe she's not a great business person, about the ADDI, right? And how they were supposed to be given citizenship, and they were paid a $360 fee or something, and another $500 fee. There was like annual fees, and then it went from being citizenship to residency or whatnot. That's what I'm under the impression. That's what I've learned so far. They went from citizenship to oppression, and that Ibrahim Traore gave, out of respect for those people who were there while the thing was going on at the very beginning, he gave them particular ADDI members citizenship. I'm not sure if it's supposed to be an ongoing thing, but nothing official. Now, I know for a fact Ibrahim Traore did not betray Americans. Like some of these YouTubers, they take information, they go a little too far with it, right? You got official channels, and then you got what a YouTuber says, right? Now, for the life of me, I wouldn't, tactically, as a warrior, as a military, personnel, and a expert in homeland security and counterterrorism, if I was Ibrahim Traore, at this moment, I wouldn't offer any Black American, any citizenship, to be honest. You want to know why I wouldn't? Because they will find themselves a military, CIA, FBI, DEA version of Clarence Thomas to get in there and infiltrate and be a spy. Right now, Ibrahim Traore and Burkina Faso have detached themselves from France, right? Which obviously is going to cause their economy to dip. But in the short term, but in the long term, they're doing exactly what they need to do to detach themselves from the Francophone countries. Period. They're doing, and they are benefiting economically from that. It's a war. You got to understand, Ibrahim Traore is at war. And right now, the only people Ibrahim Traore needs are warriors. Period. Right? They need warriors. They don't need people trying to be rescued from the Western civilization right now. They need people ready to fight Western civilization, right? So if you were looking to get citizenship in Burkina Faso, unless you were going over there and you was ready to join the fight, all right, and put your life up on the line for Burkina Faso, then you probably shouldn't go there right now. And that's just the God honest truth, right? So I went last night. I saw Oshay was online. He was live. Now listen, he don't go live very often. All right. So when he go live, he pissed off, right? And he was pissed off. And then I went to sleep and woke up. And he was back on live. I'm like, God, this motherfucker back on live. I woke up to him still being pissed off. I'm like, this motherfucker's mad, right? And he's very frustrated. And, you know, in his own very colorful way, he has a different style, obviously, and he rubs a lot of people the wrong way. And he was talking about his frustration of the scamming culture and Pan-Africanism, right? And the complacency of African people. I was trying to figure out who he was talking to, right? So I'm listening, and he wasn't getting into great detail because this is vent. You know, when you vent, you know, you just kind of like getting it out. And I couldn't quite figure out who he was talking to. It kind of seemed like he was talking to the African diaspora that's outside of Africa that talk shit about African Americans in Africa or defend the continent of Africa without actually going back to Africa and contribute. That's contributing to Africa. That's who I think he was talking to, right? But he was pandering to FBA, which I don't understand, all right? I mean, I do actually understand it. I understand it. I really do understand it from a marketing point of view, right? But so he's saying that he's pissed off about Pan-Africanism, and you know, it's one way the same old things that non-Pan-Africans say about Pan-Africanism. And here's the thing: Pan-Africanism is not a club. It's not a group of people. Pan-Africanism is an action. It's an ideology, right? Now, just like anything else, you can have scammers within that ideology, right? Oshay is a Baptist, right? He's a Baptist Christian. There are many scammers in the Baptist faith. Many scammers, right? But is Oshay going to say, I'm no longer Baptist? Because there's so many Baptist pastors stealing money from the people, got their hand out, scamming, you know, taking money from the poor people in the communities without developing those communities and buying Rolls Royces and big mansions. Is he going to not be a Baptist, right? Is the many preachers who put their hands on children within the Baptist church, is that going to deter him from being a Baptist? I don't think so, right? Because he can separate the faith. He can separate the religion from the individuals within the religion, right? He would never say, I'm about to be a Muslim now because, you know, baptism, they all scammers, right? Even though we know there are more scammers within the Christian faith than there is in Pan-Africanism. We know that. That's not, we only got to argue that, right? But I understand his frustration, and some of the things he was saying was not wrong. A lot of the stuff he was saying was not wrong. The way he delivered it was harsh, but sometimes you got to hear it that way, right? Like, for instance, in Pan-Africanism, you do have fake people who use Pan-Africanism as a platform to scam. Same way as Christianity. Platform. Matter of fact, Christianity is the biggest scam. Christianity and Islam are the two biggest scams ever created by human beings. Biggest scams. If you want to look at, a poor neighborhood, look how many churches is on it. He was talking about last night about all those African people, you know, they waiting for Jesus and God to, you know, come and save them. And they're just complacent while the African pastor take advantage of the people, right? That same thing happens in the African American community. Baptists has been waiting, you know, black Americans who are Baptists, who are Pentecostal, have been waiting for Jesus to come and save their situation and fix their communities, you know, since they got whipped by that white savage barbarian into being Christian, right? Same exact thing, right? So that part right there, I would chuck it up to the religion itself. And that's not exclusive to Africans. You see, if you go to Asia, it's the same way. You go to Europe, it's the same way. Poor white people in America been sitting there waiting for Jesus to come and save them from their situation this whole time too. Since they've been in England, they've been waiting for white Jesus to come and save them from them terrible living situation. Matter of fact, every Christian who's not rich has been waiting for white Jesus to come and save them from their situation, while the pastor scams them out the little bit of money they got while they go off and live large and tell them just have faith. Right? So with that being said, some of the things that Oshay Duke Jackson complains about is a human thing, not an African thing exclusively, even though he frames it as if Africans have an inherent issue with that, right? Now, when it comes to the culture of Africans and their complacency, it's true. African people are relatively non-combative, right? Nigerians, I deal with Nigerians. Nigerians are more aggressive than the rest of the Africans because, you know, they just are. And that example is within the African American community, because African Americans are mostly Nigerian. We have the same level of temperament, but African Americans are more aggressive than Nigerians, right? Because we have been fighting the most savage barbarian. We've been under pressure by the savage barbarian directly for about 300 years. So because we've always been fighting, we have a more aggressive. We have to be aggressive because that Anglo-Saxon is aggressive. And when you live and deal with that Anglo-Saxon directly, you have to be aggressive to combat that aggressiveness. So we are more aggressive, right? We do like to, we like conflict. We're not afraid of conflict, right? Because that solves the issue. We have to conflict and we resolute, right? And outside of I guess Nigeria, even Nigerians, they can be soft and it's unnecessary. It's like, you know, comparatively to us, but to the rest of Africa, they're hard. And I do, just like Oshay Jackson, realize that if African people were more aggressive like African Americans, they could literally change overnight, right? And there are a lot of practices within Africa, right? Because I see it in Nigeria, and y'all heard me talk about it. Everything Oshay Duke said about getting along and gotten to do things this way and them trying to take advantage of you when you go over there is true. Everything he said was true. And he said that any African American over there would tell you it's true, and I'm an African American over there and I'm telling you it's true, right? But the difference is since I was 17, I've been traveling around the world, right? And so I come to a realization that the world operates differently outside of America, and that America got to that cushy, organized level after hundreds of years of chaos, after hundreds of years of trying to organize and reorganize and taking advantage of unorganized countries or unorganizing other countries in order to organize yourself, right? So I feel like a lot of African Americans who go to Africa and see the issues that Africa has, they don't give Africans the benefit of the doubt that they just got their freedom like 65 years ago. The people who are in charge of these countries are older than the freedoms that they just recently secured for themselves. So despite this being a new day as 2025, their operating systems within a lot of these countries are still Windows 95. You understand what I'm saying? They're still Windows 95. They're still operating on that old Macintosh computer. Not Mac, not Apple. They're Macintosh, the bubble computer. Remember that? Where the computer and the monitor was the same goddamn thing, right? And so you have to give African countries who were purposely carved up, who tribes, kingdoms were purposely mashed together and told you are one group of people, whose countries has been economically destroyed purposely by the West in order for the West to benefit and create their white Wakandas in the West and finance all of the European wars against each other and all of the European wars against other nations, financed by the resources of Africa and the slavery of African Americans, right? And the millions upon millions of white lives fought on both the European peninsula. I don't call it a continent because it's not a continent, but white folks call it a continent because they need to be big. But the peninsula of Eurasia and North America, the millions upon millions of white lives and wars that it took to create what you call America, right? And all the outside outsourced labor. that it took to create America, and all the extra poverty in Europe that it took to create America. You see, people don't take in consideration what it took to create America. All the damage and destruction and the genocide and the commercialized slavery and the servitude and the famine and the nation building and the economic hitman that had to crush whole countries, the assassinations it took to create America, right? Over 100, 200, 300 years, it took that long for America to get to the standard to where we can go to the NBA and do something without necessarily being scammed. Even though we do get scammed, it's called, but they put the scams in the policies, so we don't see it. We just complain about how much shit costs, right? But in Africa, they only had 65 years. And this, look at Cameroon, dude, 90-something years old, right? Still running for the 8th time to be the president. It's ridiculous, right? To anybody looking from the outside, it's like ridiculous. Like, you people are not gonna revolt against this, right? But a big issue that I noticed that there is a class, the caste system in Africa is different from the rest of the world. The caste system in Africa is by age. Right? So it's not like mainly by tribes or by ethnic group or religion. It's by age. Meaning, if you're young, you listen to your elders, right? If you're a child, you listen to your, to the teenagers. If you're a teenager, you listen to the young adults. You're a young adult, you listen to the middle-aged men. You middle-aged men, you listen to the elders. And that's the authority, right? And even though as beautiful as that is, right? Because African Americans, we have the same, thing, right? Black people globally, we listen and respect our elders. Part of the community, part of that community setup is that it has been poisoned by white Western influence. So a lot of the elders have been taking advantage of the fact that, they get impunity, right? And a lot of these elders in Africa are puppets of the West, of the old white elders, right? That run the world, global white supremacy, right? So this is how I'm looking at things. You see, some people, I'm gonna use a puzzle analogy. Some people, when they look at the world, they look at the world like a puzzle. Like they're looking at the picture of the puzzle. It may be you got people like FBA, right? The people who call themselves FBA, they got a puzzle. It's 50 pieces. They put and the 50 pieces is all they got to that puzzle, right? And when they think, they only think 50 pieces, right? And that's the whole picture. Then you got other people, right? You got other people that's a little bit smarter than them. They got puzzles. It's 100 pieces, right? And so they see 100 pieces that they put together in order to see that big picture, right? Then you got the more advanced people. When we say pieces to the puzzle, we're talking about how their knowledge, their intellectual knowledge, their understanding and awareness of how things work, how systems work, why people think the way they think. You see, if you only got 50 pieces, 100 pieces, you may be reacting to how people act. You may be reacting to how corruption affects you directly when you are in Africa or anywhere else around the world, right? You may be thinking and reacting to how passive African people can be and why they don't just get up and do what they got to do, and how frustrating it is that African people sometimes when they come to America don't have the same level of respect they should have, right? That's 50 and 100 pieces. Then you got the people that got 1,000 pieces to the puzzle. Now they're starting to think, okay, so that African comes over here and they disrespect or disregard or don't want to participate in the African American struggle, right? But since he got 1,000 pieces, he's thinking, why does he not want to do that? They're trying to explore why they're not trying to do that. They're going to say, who taught you to be discriminatory against African Americans and you're just like us? Who made you so passive? Why are you so in love with your white Jesus over your traditional spiritual systems? That's superior, the original, the default spirituality. Why don't you guys, if you know that your systems are corrupt and are being manipulated by the white power structure, why don't you just fix it? All you have to do is just fix it, right? That's 1,000 pieces. So you're not just reacting off just emotions of the direct actions or the direct thing that you're dealing with. You're thinking why, because you always got to ask why. That way you get to the bottom of it, right? Then you got people, who are there, and when you seek it, you got 1,000 pieces you're seeking, and every time you seek, you gather information, you try to learn and improve and be more woke, be more understanding about your surroundings. You tend to deal with bigger puzzles. And then you got people who deal with like 10,000 piece puzzles, right? That's a big ass puzzle. So now in the picture, it gets more detail. You start thinking in more detail. And then you start to think, the reason why those Africans, when they come to America and they believe that they are better than us, and they believe that and they want to stay away from us, and they believe that we are lazy, is because white Western media over there shows them that on TV. You start to realize that they were taught that in their schools. You start to realize that the curriculum that they have in their schools, as they're being educated or indoctrinated by the white Western system, teaches them that Britain is amazing. White people are the saviors. Christianity is the savior of you spiritually. Your traditional spiritual system is evil and wrong. Being black is wrong. Being white is good. And those black people in America, they are thugs, sexually deviant, and lazy. And you will start to realize that when they come over here in those little programs that they have to sit a couple hours before while they get indoctrinated, come over here, that white man is telling them stay away from those African Americans. That white man, when they bring refugees, is making sure that those refugees go to a place that's predominantly white, so they can have these black people that don't have the hardship, the DNA hardship of 300 years of slavery. They get to have a good Negro that's not mired in post-traumatic slavery syndrome, right? They get to pat them on the head and say, you a good Negro. Don't be around those bad Negroes. You start to understand that you shouldn't be mad at them for thinking that way. You should go to the source and be mad at the white person that made them think that way. The same way in our educational system, they taught us, in history class, they taught us about white history. They made white history glorious. They made Christopher Columbus look like a hero. They made us believe that white people invented everything. That white people discovered everything. At any place a white person landed, they discovered it. It was discovered by human beings when white people landed there and wrote it down. Everything is a default white. That's what they taught us. They also taught us every single night when we finished watching our TVs that Africans were a bunch of AIDS infested, bloated, starving people with flies on their face. That every African had AIDS. That 9 out of 10 Africans had AIDS. That 9 out of 10 Africans were sick. That 9 out of 10 Africans lived in mud huts. That 9 out of 10 Africans could not blink, but a fly somehow could land on their eyeball and they wouldn't flinch. They drilled that into our heads for decades. That's why we have the view of Africans that we have, right? So we don't think about it both ways. But when you got 10,000 pieces on the puzzle and you start putting that shit together in as detailed, you start to realize, right? So I don't get mad at Africans for thinking the way they do. I just understand it and I work around it. I work through it because it's going to take more than 65 years, right? Especially when the revolution just started. Social media just got here. African people just got on deck. They're just now learning, self-learning, right? And they're also learning because all of the pan-African and pro-blacks before us who were going into those hotels, renting out event spaces for $400-500 for 2 hours, so that 30 to 40, 50 to 100 black African Americans can sit in there and listen to what they got to say. And somebody had a VHS, somebody had a tape recorder, somebody had a Blu-ray and a CD, and they recorded it. And then later on, somebody uploaded it online, and those videos ended up on TikTok and YouTube and Instagram to be saved and archived for later, right? So now on social media, you have African people listening to our scholars that made epic speeches 10, 15 years ago. We got African people listening to what Dr. Martin Luther King said and Malcolm X said. They never heard of these people because when they grew up, they didn't know about these people. You got Africans right now. You know how many Africans you got online right now that's learning all the things that we've been trying to tell them? That's listening to the great scholars. That's watching, that's rewatching the 50s and 60s and 70s, the struggles of the African Americans. They are just catching up. You have to give them the benefit of the doubt, right? And when you got 10,000 pieces on a puzzle piece, that you start thinking about stuff like that. And you stop getting mad because you're getting mad about how they react when they are living in ignorance, when they don't have all the information, is a waste of time and a waste of energy. When you should be focusing your energy on the real problem. Now, Oshay is talking about Pan-Africanism. Now, like I said, just like his Baptist religion that and them scammers over there, I'm sure he's going to stay a Baptist, right? There's no need for him to leave Pan-Africanism because there's some Pan-Africans that's not really Pan-African, that don't actually live up to the ideology of what Pan-Africanism is, right? They don't, right? We got so many, just like in America, we got all these pseudos, right? We got these people that want to connect themselves to, like I said, Christianity, the white man's religion, Judaism, the white man's religion, Islam, really the white man's religion, all right? And all their perspective is based off the Bible. They still got that chain, that Bible, that Quran, that Old Testament. They got that shit wrapped around their neck, right? And all of them scam, right? So scamming is everywhere. Even in the secular society, people scam. Oshay, Umar Johnson's a scammer. I've been saying that for years because I'm a real Pan-African. He's a fake Pan-African. He's a roving preacher, like I always say, right? But you know who Oshay Duke Jackson don't never talk about? Tariq Nasheed. He leave that one alone. You know why? Because Tariq Nasheed takes advantage of those people who only got 50 to 100 pieces on the puzzle, who react emotionally to the first reaction, the side effects, and the results of the ignorance that was baked into the African mindset and the continental African mindset. And those people who look at Tariq Nasheed as somebody to be looked up to, Tariq Nasheed, the guy with the Arabic name, the guy who started out as a failed rapper, failed comedian, fake pimp, Pan-African, now FBA xenophobic hate group cult member, right? With an Arabic name. Now his excuse for having that Arabic name is that African Moors named Tariq Nasheed is an African Moor name. Either way, it's still an Arabic name. Don't matter if some African person had it before. It's still an Arabic name. And we don't know his real name. We don't know anything about him. So anybody who follows Tariq Nasheed, they got about 50 pieces to the puzzle. And they probably missing a couple pieces. So that the puzzle ain't gonna get put together. Now, it just so happens that Oshay Duke Jackson has a show called Celebrity Junk, right? Celebrity Junk caters to people who are interested in what celebrities are doing in their business, right? Just so happens a person who got 50 pieces to the puzzle, maybe 49, maybe 40, 48, they are also interested in what the celebrities are doing. Mindless entertainment and grifters. So, media-wise, so money-wise, it behooves Oshay Duke Jackson to pander to FBA because those are the people who watch Celebrity Junk. That's Oshay's bread and butter, right? So he does that. That's why, he leaves Tariq alone, even though Tariq is one of the biggest grifters, bar none. Everybody knows that. If Oshay didn't speak about Tariq, Tariq might disappear off YouTube. He's one of his biggest supporters, right? Even though Tariq is a scammer, an obvious scammer. Tariq's not intelligent. He regurgitates the same bullshit the rest of the scammers regurgitate. He stole the community's money and built the donut shop, right? It's not a museum. And Tariq's museum is a whole bunch of Pan-African stuff. A whole bunch of African stuff. A whole bunch of pro-black Pan-African icons in his xenophobic, hateful donut shop he calls a hidden history museum that he crowdfunded from the African American community, then charges them to go in to see unfunny comics and to eat freaking catered dinners and shit that he gets from white places. But he leaves it alone because the people that pander to Tariq Nasheed, they like flashy things and bright colors. They're simple-minded individuals who are emotionally unintelligent, but they all spend their money and buy Ogun juice spray and buy white label t-shirts to say FBA and buy flags and put money in Tariq's pocket they will also send super chats and watch celebrity junk like it's TMZ. So money-wise, I understand why Oshay panders to the FBA, right? The xenophobic hate group that everybody knows is a xenophobic hate group, and that's dead, and it's never going to rise. FBA does not represent African Americans at all. They only represent Tariq Nasheed's fan club, right? They only exist online. They don't exist in real life. Nobody calls themselves Black American. We all say we black, or we say we African American, and we don't got no problem with that, right? You know, so he does that, and that's why he does that. But at the same time, Oshay Duke Jackson does Pan-African things, and he does believe in Pan-Africanism, which is like there's two forms of Oshay. You got Oshay, the celebrity junk character with his show, his media show, but then you got Oshay the Pan-African, right, who wants to work with black folks. And I agree with it, because listen, why should Vlad TV exploit African Americans and get paid? Why should Adam 22 exploit African Americans and get paid? I mean, look at all these white people who dip into the black community, right? Talking about celebrities and bringing up the worst type of African American to represent us, to exploit us, and they get millions of dollars. If we're gonna do that, why shouldn't we be getting all that money? Why should we let the white man continue to exploit black people and get all the money? I like celebrity. I watch that shit. All right. Let's not pretend like some of y'all people that don't like Oshay, right? When that fucking video come across your goddamn page, you be like, man, I don't fuck with it. But then you see that goddamn video, you be like, I'm gonna click that shit anyway. Right? Come on now. You know you do it. Like, Sometimes it be some shit you be wanting to know. We all like a little bit of drama. We should be making money off our own drama, right? And we can do that. And that's what Oshay does, right? Also, Oshay does a lot of other stuff off camera that y'all don't know about. Oshay, his activities, his actions are very Pan-African. His words are not. Right? Not all the time. But his activities are what he really does in real life are very Pan-African. More Pan-African than Tariq. If Oshay wanted to destroy Tariq, he could. That's the thing about it. I know he could. Oshay could crush Tariq with the truth, take all of his subscribers, and convert them to Pan-Africans if he wanted to. But strategically, he decided not to do that. He's going a different route. Okay, everybody, to each their own, right? But Oshay, his activities are Pan-African, even though his rhetoric seems to be hateful, right? Everybody says, how the hell is he going to be in Africa, living it up in Africa, and talk shit about Africans, right? How is he going to be a Pan-African and vote for Donald Trump? Like I said, he may not be politically I don't think he is that politically knowledgeable, because there's absolutely no way, right? Now let's talk about the corruption that he complains about in Africa. Yes, the corruption in Africa is so basic, you see that shit coming a mile away. Nothing he said wrong. He didn't say anything wrong about the corruption in Africa. It's true. It is 100% true. That should be pissed. I'll be in Nigeria. That should be pissed. When I see it, it pisses me off, because I'm saying it's bullshit. Why don't y'all stand up for yourself and say no? Every time, let me tell you something. When I'm on the road, I don't give no police officer shit. Because I have a beard and I'm light skinned, they think I'm Fulani when I'm on the road. Or they think I'm Igbo and I got a bunch of money. If I'm dressed, like if I got anything nice, they think I'm an Igbo. So they think I got money. Because you got a beard. They think I got money, so they try to get me. I stand strong as an African American. You ain't getting shit. And I'm aggressive with it. And guess what? They back down. I've watched Nigerians flip out on the police when they try to take their shit. When they try to scam them for a couple naira. Because they're fucking tired of that shit. The people are getting tired of that shit. Because it's the institutionalized corruption. The police officers is corrupt because the police chiefs are corrupt. The police chief is corrupt because the goddamn council members are corrupt. The council members are corrupt because the goddamn governor and mayor is corrupt. The governor and the mayor is corrupt because the goddamn federal government's corrupt. The federal government's corrupt because the goddamn president's corrupt. Everybody at the airport's corrupt, begging, disrespecting themselves by just openly asking you for money. Right? Because the system says this is okay. That shit has to change. Right? But I simply stand strong. I never give in to it. Ever. I will stand there. I will stand there all day. We can do this. I'm about that life. We can do this. And guess what? I win every time. Because like I said in some of my videos, They need African Americans. They need some of this energy that we got. They need some of this shit, some of this mental and social and economic and structural warrior mentality, right? To stop this corruption when you call it out and highlight that shit and stand there and make it a problem. You want problems. You got to make it a problem. Make it difficult. Don't just, because if you just let it happen, it's going to keep going. That's just true. But Oshay Duke Jackson, the way he frames it, he makes it seem like only Africa's corrupt, right? Come to America. You ain't got to worry about confronting it because you ain't got no choice. You see, when you're on the road in Africa and some police officer trying to get 200 naira, which is maybe like $5 off you, $2 off you, right? You can say no. Wait there for about 5 minutes till they let you go because they stressed out and they're going to move on to the next car that's going to be compliant. But when you come to America and you go up I-95 trying to go from DC to New York, guess what? When you hit that toll booth, you're going to pay that goddamn money or you ain't going nowhere. And if you try to go by that toll booth, you're going to get something in the mail. And if you don't pay it, it's going to double. See, in America, when you're driving down the street, you go 2 miles off the speed limit, you're getting $200 goddamn bill in the mail. $300, $400. You got private corporations that's hitting you over the head in black communities, in high traffic communities, making a profit off you just simply driving. That's corruption. The corruption in America far surpassed anything going on in Africa. It's just more sophisticated. You want to talk about corrupt politicians? Look at our politicians. We got a whole half of our goddamn politicians protecting old white rich men in suits from the biggest pedophilia case in the world. You want to talk about corruption? You want to talk about corruption? You want to talk about African people going to Saudi Arabia, beautiful African women going to Saudi Arabia? When we got African American women getting on planes going to Saudi Arabia doing the same shit. Going to Dubai doing the same shit. All the Instagram models, when Instagram first came out, they was all going to Saudi Arabia getting shit on for money. You want to talk about beautiful black women being taken advantage of? Our black women in America disappear every day. Ain't nobody saying nothing about it. Native American women disappear every day. Anybody saying nothing about it? Little white girls disappear every day. Ain't nobody saying nothing about it. How many cases just this year have we found white people in the middle of the wood in bumfuck nowhere having dens with slaves in it? How many sexual rings did the FBI bust just this year? How many women go disappearing in the sex trade every year? You want to talk about? So let's not pretend like Africa got something going on in America, don't. America far surpasses Africa in that shit. You want to talk about people leaving Africa for a better opportunity? There's not a lot of opportunity in Africa because not a lot of businesses, right? But when you thinking with just 50 pieces or 100 pieces of the puzzle, you just like, well, you know, why don't these African countries just make businesses? Why don't these African countries just start a bunch of businesses and give these people jobs? But when you think it with 1,000, 10,000 pieces, you understand how the economic hitman works. You understand how the puppet master works. You understand that the lack of development is by design by the Western world, and that is still in play, and that is currently being dismantled, and that's the reason. And when you understand the reason, you don't have to get mad. You just have to make the change, right? You understand that Africa's been purposely undeveloped, because we were more developed than Europe. We've been purposely undeveloped. Y'all understand that. Y'all understand that they still have to deal with the age class system on top of the white Western worlds and their influence within Africa. You got to understand that it takes more. It takes more than a few years and a few motivational speeches to change an entire continent. We're talking about, this is a generational thing. If it wasn't for our ancestors 100 years ago, we wouldn't be able to do the shit we're doing now. It may take 100 goddamn years to fix Africa. America had 200, 300 goddamn years to get here. You got to give Africa more than 65 years. It's not fair. Not fair at all, right? And I take that in consideration when I'm judging Africa and African people and how they are mentally. Look at Europe. Look at all the fighting and death and destruction that's happening in Europe right now. Look at all the corruption happening in Europe right now. Look at France. Look what France is doing to their own population because they can't steal from Africa no more. Look at England. Look what's happening to England because they can't steal from Africa no more. Look what's happening to Germany because they can't steal from Africa no more. Look what's happening to Ukraine. Look what's happening to Russia. Look what's happening to Europe in all of its totality because certain NATO and UN countries can't steal from Africa no more. Now they got to hold their own nuts, and they're having a problem doing it. And it's corruptions and scams. France can't even keep a PM. They done been through 5 of them so far since Macron has been the goddamn president. 5. One just quit. He wasn't even there 90 goddamn days. You want to talk about corruption? Europe is the definition of corruption. You want to talk about corruption? America is the most corrupt superpower on the planet. And Oshay voted for that corrupt individual. I don't know, what, 3 times probably, right? And so that makes him a cog in the machine that he complains about. You understand? So, and just like there's people leaving Africa to go to Saudi Arabia, there's women who would love to leave Saudi Arabia and go to America. Everybody wants to leverage what they have to go somewhere else. That's what people do. Just like Oshay leveraged, why did Oshay leave America to go to Poland? To leverage his ability to go to school to become a doctor. For some reason he did not, I'm not saying he couldn't, I'm pretty sure he could, but for some reason he found a better opportunity in Poland than he did in America. So he left and went to Poland. And then after he left and went to Poland, he went to Africa. So he's leveraged himself in Poland. Now he's leveraged himself in Africa. He left America. Doesn't mean he don't love America. He don't love his people. Clearly he loves his people. But he decided to leverage himself to go somewhere else. Right? Other people would like to leverage themselves and go somewhere else for an opportunity. I understand that. Right? Now, a lot of these opportunities are not good. Right? A lot of these people are being tricked. A lot of these black African, East African women and West African women are being tricked to go to Saudi Arabia. But it ain't just Africans. East Asians, Filipinos. There's a lot of different women around the globe being trafficked into the Middle East. The Middle East is one of the biggest sponsors of pedophilia. Indians. Indian people sell their children. Indian people commercially sell their girls to the Arabs, to the UAE, to the Saudi Arabians for sex trafficking. It's a commercial business. It's big time. And torture. White people go to the Middle East so they can do the thing that they like to do with little children, unabated and unchallenged by the common sense world. There is a place where rich people, whether they're African, Arab, and white, where they get to go and play and do all the shit they want to do without being held accountable. And they know how to coerce people into coming into the country by lying to them with advertisement and third parties. Shit, people get tricked into coming to America all the time, thinking shit's sweet. And when they get here, they get stuck into that billing cycle, that economic slavery chain that gets wrapped around their neck. Most African people that come to America, they're miserable. They're lonely and they're miserable because there's no community. And they're slaves. You want to talk about a country having problems? Go to Japan. As beautiful as it is, they're slaves. They're killing each other. You got numbers the size of cities disappearing every year just to get away from the system. These people work from can't see in the morning to can't see at night in Japan with them pretty streets, with homeless people being stuffed in alleys so you can't see them. Where they gotta make vertical nap pods because people can't even get no sleep. Where women are forced to have sex with their bosses or else, because you gotta have loyalty to your boss culture. Well, when your boss say let's go to the club and let's hang out, you gotta do it no matter what, because you're a slave to that corporation. But you don't see that shit if you're only working with 50 or 100 pieces. When you're working with 1,000 pieces, that's when you see that shit. When you're working with 1,000 pieces, you start to question that shit. 10,000 pieces, you see that shit. So the thing is, you got to put everything in context. So Oshay Duke Jackson not exactly wrong about what he's saying, but I don't think he got all the pieces to the puzzle. Not like some people. And me, I'm working with 10,000 goddamn pieces. Right? Y'all know that. Y'all know that. But let me tell you something. There are people out here who got more than 10,000 pieces to the puzzle. They got goddamn 100,000 pieces to the puzzle, and they putting the puzzle together upside down because they don't even need to see the picture. They can put it together just off the shape of the pieces of the puzzle, and they're going to glue it together and turn it around and show everybody the big picture. I'm not even there yet because you got to continue to learn, and I know that, right? So, you know, like I do understand his frustration, and but the thing is, Oshay is also contradictory in the things he say. But I do know his actions are very Pan-African, but his rhetoric is very, at times, very xenophobic and hateful, which is contradictory to each other, right? But I do respect Oshay. He's a hard worker, right? And he's very entertaining. And, you know, and he's very passionate about the things that he do, right? So that's all I really want to say. I had to say something because too many people was emailing me, and I know at some point, just like too many people emailed him when he was forced to make a video on that Humpty Dumpty piece of shit, Anton Daniels, I was forced to make this video about Oshay, right? So, to recap, BurkinaFaso, to be honest, shouldn't be offering any African American, any diaspora, any citizenship at the moment while they're still detaching themselves and securing their country from the Francophone countries that tried to kill him like 18 times and sending spy after spy after spy. Because if I was a white spy, I'm sending an African American. I'm sending somebody who don't give a fuck about their community to infiltrate and destabilize the country. That's what I'm gonna do if I was on the opposite side and I wanted to destabilize Burkina Faso, right? But that's not what's happening. You can still go to Burkina Faso. You can still get residency there. Citizenship, go through the national channels. Stop going to third parties and trying to get the quick way to do shit. There's a regular way to get citizenship in African countries, the same way you can get citizenship in any other country. Just go through the regular, proper, normal channels. It ain't that damn complicated. Stop trying to get a quick fix to something. And most of you people trying to get these passports, y'all don't want to contribute anything to the countries anyway. You just want to escape. They don't need people to escape. Maybe in 2000, maybe in 2100, when Africa finishes developing, gets where it needs to be, it'll be a place for you to escape. But right now, Africa needs warriors who understand that when you get in the mud, you're going to get wet and dirty. And they don't complain about getting wet and dirty. Because the only way to build a brick is to get in the mud, get wet and get dirty, and then shape it yourself. You don't expect anybody to shape that shit for you. You got to mold that shit yourself. And only a certain kind of person can go over there and do that. And so this is the time for builders, not a time for refugees into Africa, because we working. All right. And so as far as the corruption in Africa, yeah, there's corruption in Africa, but it ain't the worst. You can deal with it. You cannot tolerate it. You can work around it. No need to get mad. Just understand when you get in the mud, you're going to get wet. That's just the simplest fact. And African people in their corruption is no different from any other place in their corruption. Everybody got their own style of corruption. Everybody got their own kind of problems. Every country has their own kind of problems. And you are the one who needs to be prepared for that. You have to do your research and be prepared for those problems and be ready to handle the problems. And you got to ask yourself, before you get up and go, are you willing to trade the problems of the place that you at for the problems that's over there? Are you willing to trade? And how will you benefit? And how will you benefit those people? And don't expect fairy tales. Pan-Africanism is not about dancing and hopping up and down. And this is that was a movie. Pan-Africanism is about doing work. If you look on my page, you see real Pan-Africanism. Pan-Africanism is African governments and Caribbean governments organizing for economic trade deals. That's Pan-Africanism. Pan-Africanism is the tens of thousands of African Americans that's going to Africa right now and starting businesses and not doing YouTube channels. So for every scammer there's 10. For every scammer, there's 100 African Americans having success, doing business the correct right way, not trying to take shortcuts, not listening to social media personalities that's promising this and promising that. Don't send your money to anybody. You can get scammed in America sending your money to a charlatan. It happens all the time. Umar Johnson, Tariq Nasheed. And don't think that these African countries don't have their own Umar Johnsons and Tariq Nasheeds. And it's just that simple, right? Everybody, you got 50 pieces, you need to be elevating yourself to get to that 100 pieces. You got 100 pieces, you need to elevate yourself, start asking why, and get to 1,000 pieces of that puzzle. And once you start getting the answers to why, then you got 10,000 pieces, and you can start putting shit together and connecting the dots. And like me, I'm working on getting goddamn 100,000 pieces and turning the board around and putting the pieces together with the picture facing down and gluing that bitch together so I can turn it around and show you the big picture. That's what I'm working on. Okay? So anyway, I hope I was clear. You know, I hope you guys understand me. And like I said, do your due diligence. This is the real world. All right? There's no fairy tales here. Just like marriage. Marriage is not a fairy tale, is it? You know, the wedding and the honeymoon does end, and it'll be time to get down to the business of the institution of marriage. All right? And that's what we got to do. Forget the honeymoon. All right? Let's get down to the institution of Pan-Africanism, because Pan-Africanism is working. Pan-Africanism is alive. And if you don't want to be a part of Pan-Africanism, that's fine, because all the weaklings need to be sifted out anyway, because we only need strong. Only the strong survive. And that's the law of nature. Anyway, tell me what you guys think in the comment section. It's Afro Think Tank. Learn something, teach something. I'm out.
Anything that don't help me grow. Fake friends, shiesty hoes, I'm letting all that bullshit go. No negative energy on my ship, giving as much energy as I can give. You niggas got too many needs, y'all be fucking up my peace. So
ain't nobody trying to argue with you all damn day, bro. Shut the fuck up. Damn.
Free Sudan! Boycott diamonds and gold! Free Sudan! Boycott diamonds and gold! We most definitely cannot forget about the people of Sudan!
Thanks for watching Afro Think Tank. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And follow me on Substack and Patreon for more content. Remember, it's Pan-Africanism or nothing.